So how do you actually get things done in your business? How do you get things done in your life? What do you need structure-wise in order to get things done? Do you need accountability? Do you need to know that people are waiting on you to get it done? Or do you need to be held accountable? Wait, I said that. Do you need to be held accountable and know that people are waiting on you to get it done? Or do you, like me, need to understand why you're doing it and it has to make sense and it has to be rational? Or is it that somebody just has to ask you to do it? You need the outside asking. Or are you like my friend Karen, who's watching this Periscope, and you are a rebel, and if somebody asks you to do it or you feel like you have to do it, you suddenly can't do it, and you just have a really, really hard time doing it? Well, it doesn't matter what you need in order to get stuff done. A lot of us beat ourselves up because we think we should just get things done no matter what. But in fact, if you tap into what you best need in order to follow through with something, you're going to find it way, way easier to get stuff done in your business. So we're going to talk today about the 4 tendencies. So people are saying in Periscope that Karen says she has to bribe herself with rewards. Kitty said she's a bit of a rebel. So we're going to talk about the 4 tendencies. This is a framework I was first introduced to in Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before. And she talks about how people respond to expectations. Knowing this about yourself can really help you set it up so that you respond better to the things you truly want to do. Do you see Raylan right here? Stop that, buddy. Get away from the yarn. So the question totally fascinates me because building habits, which is what Better Than Before is all about, and figuring out how you work is at the heart of what makes some people's businesses grow and makes some people actually take the action they need to take. And it's at the heart of the reason why so many people are frustrated that they don't get more done and that their business hasn't grown. It's very rarely a lack of knowledge. We all read the same blog posts, listen to the same podcast episodes, have access to the same classes. And yet some of us are able to immediately implement and do stuff. And some of us just seem to kind of be swirling and being like, well, I know I need to do that, and yet I'm not doing it, but I know I need to, but I'm not. So I'm going to talk about, I found that this framework is really helpful when I work with people to help them identify what they most need to set up structure-wise in order to get things done. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is this framework and where you fit, and hopefully talking about it will help you see where you actually fit in it. A couple people in Periscope are saying they're definitely swirling and they definitely have a hard time getting things done. So the best explanation I've ever heard for why some people swirl and why other people don't is in Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before, which again is all about habit and habit change, but I really like to apply this to why people are doing stuff in their business or not doing stuff in their business, because I found that making working on your business a habit is the best way to ensure you actually make regular progress. If you can figure out how to build habits around productivity, about regularly marketing, about regularly making and photograph and listing your stuff, then it becomes much easier to keep running your business if it's actually just a habit. Okay, so in this book, Gretchen defines the 4 tendencies as a reason for some people, the reason why some people have an easy time getting things done and other people really, really struggle. So I have then used this. I read this book like 2 years ago. I've used it with my so many clients. As the members of the Starship will tell you, I'm all the time asking, wait, are you a rebel or a Obliger or a questioner? If you're this, then maybe you need this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It doesn't matter if you've read the book. I'm going to explain to you what the framework is. Okay, so the first kind of person is an upholder. And these people do everything that's expected of them easily. They both meet external expectations, which is other people telling you what to do, and internal expectations, which are the things that they want to do themselves. I don't actually meet a lot of these people, and it's my theory that it's because these people aren't out there looking for help in building their business because they just can do it. If somebody asks them to do it, they can do it. If they decide they want to do it, they can do it. So this is an upholder. I don't meet a lot of upholders, but we all secretly wish we were upholders, right? You wish that, like, if there's something that needed to be done, you just did it. No big deal. And instead of having this like struggle. Now, questioners are people like me who don't care to meet external expectations. One way of saying it could be that you're not good at meeting external expectations. I choose to think of it as like, I'm choosing not to meet external expectations unless they understand why, unless it's logical to them. Okay, so an external expectation is that you like shower and get dressed out of your PJs before you leave the house. I have no problem doing that because I can understand why. For me, that makes sense. And really, the way I think about a questioner is you turn an external expectation, the things that other people want you to do, into an internal expectation once you understand why it needs to be done. So I have an internal expectation that I shower and brush my teeth. Also, that I keep my kitchen a certain level of clean, or that I do the things in my business. I only ever do the things in my business that I can see the purpose of. So instead of other people expecting me to do it, I have to turn it into my own internal expectations. Once I have an internal expectation about something, I have no problem doing it. Those are questioners. I'm a questioner. You might be a questioner. I write a lot of my classes for questioners, and in Periscope, people are saying, that's me. Wow, light bulb. I love to hear it. So I write a lot of my classes for questioners in the following way. I don't tell you what to do. I help you see the logic. Like, I teach why it needs to be done, and then my classes are full and my book is full of worksheets for you to apply it to your own business. So instead of me saying do this and this and this, which some teachers do and some students really love that, Upholders and Obligers both really like for someone to tell you exactly what to do. So we'll get to Obligers in a minute. But I don't say do this and this and this. And then instead I say this is the logic behind it. Now, how does that apply to your business? And you fill out worksheets that apply it to your own business. And then it becomes an internal expectation. So I don't even have to say, you should market in this way. I give you all these workbooks or worksheets of around figuring out what your own marketing message is. And then once you've identified it, you have an easier time doing the stuff behind it. Once you understand, say, why you use hashtags on Instagram, or why taking more styled photos is in line with your brand. Once you've decided that, because you've decided on your branding and you've decided that you want to use Instagram, then it becomes much easier for you to use Instagram on a regular basis. So anything. All of my classes are answer questioners' questions so that they can apply that to themselves, so it becomes their own internal expectations. So I never, and that's why when people are like, I want somebody to tell me what to do, I tell them, well, I'm not the person for you because I can't tell you what to do because I'm not that kind of person. Instead, I'll help you figure out what you most want to do in your own internal expectations. And in my very unscientific study, about a quarter of the members of the Starship are questioners. And I think they're drawn to it by my ask yourself the questions kind of teaching style. Also known as the Socratic method. It's been around for a long time. And I'm going to mention the Starship a couple times. The Starship is currently open as I record this video, and you can find more out at taurusweiger.com/starshipbiz. If you are watching this in the future, hello future, you can still go to taurusweiger.com/starshipbiz to learn more and to sign up to be notified when it opens again. Now, that's the second one, questioners. The third one, obligers. These people, maybe you, because I know a lot of obligers, they have a pretty easy time fulfilling external expectations. When somebody asks them to do something or expects them to do something, they have a easier time doing it. But they have a tough time fulfilling internal expectations. So if it's something just they want to do, like something they need to do to reach their own goals, but that no one else yet cares about, they have a really hard time doing it. In fact, I found that obligers fill up their days doing things for other people and not doing the things they actually want to get done in their own business and their own life. And then they feel really frustrated. And sometimes they feel really bitter about other people asking them to do things. So a couple people on Periscope are saying that's totally them. They're totally, a lot of people are saying that's them. So this is a lot of people. And I think this is a lot of women because we've been trained to take care of others. And you might be the person in your home that's the caretaker. And so when people ask you to do things, you have a easy time or an easier time fulfilling their expectations and a harder time fulfilling your own expectations. And this can lead to all kinds of stress in your business because your business, especially in the first bit, until you have customers that are begging you for stuff, in the first while, it's all based on you and your internal expectations. There's nobody holding any external expectations of you at all, right? And that can be really hard for an obliger. They need somebody outside of them to say, hey, I'm waiting on you to do that. And then they're like, oh, okay, no problem. So the solution is simply that. You want to take your internal expectations and externalize them. Specifically, you want to get people to ask you about the things that you've decided you want to do. So you still have to be responsible for deciding what you want to do, and then get somebody else to ask you about them. So you can do this with a group, like on the Starship. We have weekly accountability and accountability threads. We also have accountability partner pairing, where you fill out a form and I pair you up with an accountability partner so you can check in with one person even more regularly. Now, somebody's asking on Periscope, they're not sure if they're a questioner or an obliger, so I'll tell you more about that in a minute, how you can decide. But so after learning that 2/3 of the Starship members were obligers, I built in even more accountability. We had already been doing the weekly chat where people show up and everybody has a chance to say what's going well in their business, what are they working on, and how we can help them. In other words, like get help. And people were using that for an accountability a lot, and people started talking a lot about how the weekly chat was providing them with accountability. But not everybody can make it because of time zone issues or just family issues or just like who's free Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I wanted to set up other ways. So there's a forum that a lot of people use, a good handful of people use to check in each week. They post what they're going to work on, then they come back the next week and say, this is what I worked on, and that's enough. But other people say, I really need somebody to reach out to me and to say, well, have you done this thing? So for that, we have the accountability partner program. So once I realized that like 2/3 of the members were obligers, I try to build tools into the Starship so it provides you with that, externalizing your internal expectations. The crazy thing about it is that a lot of people tell me simply joining a community where other people are working on their business does externalize it. They suddenly see themselves as a person who does this, and that they're part of a community that upholds them to being a person who works on their business. So even though we're very gentle and very encouraging and very like, awesome, yay, woo, and not at all like, oh my goodness, you should have done that. Even though we're very encouraging and uplifting, simply being a member of a community of people who are serious about their business prompts them to become a person who's serious about their business. That's what I mean by externalizing those expectations. They suddenly see themselves in community as a kind of person who does this. And so you know you're an obliger if people are saying on Periscope this makes sense. I'm so glad to hear it. So I want to clarify, are you an obliger or a questioner? Now there's a quiz on Gretchen Rubin's site. I think it's gretchenrubin.com. And I link to the quiz in a free guide I've put together. I gave you 7 resources for more of this. So if you want to learn which one you are, if you want to learn about more resources, Jolie of Jolie Creates wrote a great blog post for Rebels, which we're going to get to in a minute. I mentioned some books that are good for questioners. You can get that resource guide at taraswiger.com/resource. Put in your email address, you'll get the PDF sent to you immediately, taraswiger.com/resource, and that will give you the direct link to the quiz to decide which one of these you are. Now, and a really easy way to tell if you are an obliger or a questioner is this. If someone comes to you and asks you to do something in a period of time when you were going to work on your business, and they ask you to do something for them, are you likely to do it or not do it? And this thing they're asking you to do is something you don't really care about. Like, it's not like, I really care about my mom's health, so no problem, I take her to the doctor. Like, that's not a problem. But it's going to be something that you do not really care about at all, and that isn't like one of your highest values. So people in Periscope are saying they do it, okay, then you're probably an obliger. So if you're a questioner and somebody comes and asks you to do something you don't really care about, in general, you're going to say, why? like, why do you need me to do that for you? Like, how will this help? And if you can see the reason that it either aligns with your highest values or it's something you care about deeply, you'd be glad to do it. So, I am not a person, like, I have no problem saying no to things, right? You invite me to come to your kid's birthday party and we're not that good of friends and I don't really know your kid, and your kid's not going to remember I'm there, and it's time I'd be working on my business, I'll just say no, and I don't feel like anything. Now, if our friendship's really important to me, or I can see how it ties into my values, then I'll say yes. But if you ask me to run errands for you, I almost always say no if it's during my work hours. So that's how you tell the difference between a obliger and a questioner. And I'm sure if my husband sees this video, he will tell you undoubtedly I'm a questioner. Because whenever anybody asks me to do anything, I'm always like, oh, why? Like, not meanly, just why? I have to know. You have to give me a reason. So a lot of people have a really hard time saying no, and that's what people in Periscope, quite a few of you said, the people who are watching it live, that they absolutely would do it. So that probably means you're obliger. Now here's the thing, a lot of obligers, and this I think is part of being an obliger, they feel really bad that they're obligers. They wish they weren't. But that's fine. It's actually admirable. Let me tell you, questioners will often not build friendships as easily as an obliger will, because as somebody said in Periscope, people don't always like when you ask why, and often the people you're talking to are also obligers, and so they don't understand that you're saying no. So do not feel that you don't feel bad about being an obliger. Instead, figure out how you can better build the structure of your working life to externalize your internal expectations. So an obliger has an easy time saying yes to external expectations and a hard time saying yes to their own internal expectations. So what you need to do is take those internal expectations and externalize them. Get somebody who cares about you and cares about your business. Maybe it's an accountability partner that I match you up with in the Starship. Maybe it's one of your friends, and get them to ask you about their thing. Okay? Yes, so that will help you get things done in your own business, even as an obliger. Don't feel bad about being an obliger though, man. Like, you are probably a really, really great friend. And if you're a questioner and you're always saying no to people because you want to work on your own thing and you don't understand why they're asking you to do this thing, don't feel bad about that either. Recognize those some ways to get you to say yes when you need to say yes more often. So I will often ask, is this in alignment with my values? And one of my values is being a good friend. So, okay, I'll do this thing that otherwise I would say no to because I just really value my time working on my business. Now, the fourth framework, the fourth person in the framework. So I do want to say this before we go on to that. So, somebody said on Periscope that they think obligers get a lot done. They often get a lot done in the world. Like, they're the people who take people to hospitals and take you to the doctor and bring you chicken soup when you're sick and get their house cleaned and are good friends. And yet, they have a hard time getting things done in their business, is what I found. Maybe that's filtered by the people who come to work with me. They're in the point where they're frustrated that they're not getting more done in their business. So yes, keep in mind that any of these four frameworks, you probably get a lot done. The question is, are you getting done what you want to get done? And if not, then putting a structure in place based on how you respond to expectations can be really useful. And that's why we're talking about this today. All of these ways of being are fine. You probably get a lot done, but if you're not getting done what you want to get done to build your business, then really you don't need to change you. You need to change your structures so that the structures make it easier for you. Good. Okay, so the fourth kind of expectation reactor is a rebel. Now, these people, who I found are small but vocal number, tend to feel constrained by any kind of expectation. So Karen, who's watching the Periscope live, she has said before she's a rebel. Whenever you ask her to do something that is not like on her plan, she has a hard time saying yes. And also, but when she asks herself to do something, she has a hard time saying yes, because once it becomes an expectation, and I'm no longer speaking for Karen, and now I'm just speaking for all rebels, once it becomes an expectation, they want to rebel against it. They just don't want to do it. They're just like totally not interested in doing it. And one rebel told me that she feels like she writes things down on her to-do list just to, writing things down on her to-do list ensures she never wants to do it again. So as soon as she has the idea of doing something, she writes it down and then no longer cares to do it. So she said, what I'm going to start doing is writing all the things down on my list I don't want to do. So I have a couple of suggestions. So I gave you a solution if you're a questioner, right? You need to find the answers and do the research to suddenly make an internal expectation. If you're an obliger, the answer is to externalize those expectations and get people to check in on you and make sure you're doing them. If you're a rebel, the solution is probably to stop telling yourself what you should do. A couple of people are saying they have this as a minor tendency. Definitely. So creating a schedule and telling yourself what you have to do that day is a certain way, if you're a rebel, of making sure you don't do it. So what's the answer? Not doing that. But this feels so scary, especially if you feel like you are afraid you'll never get anything done. So a lot of times a rebel will be like, you know what, I failed to get things done in a bunch of different ways. I failed to work on this before. So saying that I am just gonna let myself not put anything on the list, that seems really scary. Like, what, then I'll get even less done. But what rebels have found is that when they let go of the list of the things that they should do that day, they get so much more done. If they approach the day as like, okay, what am I gonna do today? And then just go do it, no problem, they get tons done. But that can be so scary to just turn it off, right? To just decide, I'm gonna step away. I'm getting a couple yeses in Periscope. I love to see that. Just to step away feels really scary, like they're going to mess it up and not ever do anything. But instead, I want you to give yourself permission to at least try it. Just try not making a to-do list one day. If you're definitely a rebel and you've really struggled with this and you really like can't look at your to-do list or you get all cranky, so somebody says on Periscope, I do that too. If my husband asks if I'm going to do laundry, I will not do it, even if I originally was going to do it. I love that. Karen says, I like to have a list from which I can choose over a period of time, but not prescribed each day. Yes, so that is also what another rebel, Jolie, she wrote a blog post. That link is in the resource guide. If you sign up at taraswiger.com/resource, you'll get a resource guide, which includes a link to Jolie's blog post. That's what she said she does. Instead of making a list for that day, she makes a list of things involved in the project, and then each day lets herself pick from that list. So that takes away the should and it takes away the pressure. And she's found that even if she takes off the due date and just says, these are the things that are involved in this project. I'm super excited about this project. So being super excited about this project, which of the things shall I do right now? And then you can get stuff done because you have it on the list. So Karen was saying earlier that she made a map, which you can find at through the map making guide. You can find it at taraswiger.com/map. She made a map that has a list of all the possible things that need to be done in this project, and then she just picks from that list each day, as opposed to feeling like she has to get specific things done today. She picks from the list. Now, this is also how I've worked for a long time. I make a list of everything that needs to be done for the week, and then what I do is that morning, I pick the things from my weekly list that I'm going to do that day. Rebels sometimes even don't do that. They just have a list and they just work on it. So somebody says, I'm a list girl, but I can't call it a to-do list, or it just guarantees rebellion. Yes, there's a bunch of different ways of working. Some people, especially obligers and upholders, find that if they assign themselves things to do ahead of time, like on Mondays, I'm always going to do this, on Tuesdays, I'm always going to do this, they can really fall into the rhythm. But rebels find that if a Monday has to be a this kind of day, they end up spending the day not doing that at all. So instead, just have a list of possible projects and work from there. So also, they found that setting goals that are more around qualities and around noticing what's working and what's not tend to get them better results than setting goals that are like, you must get X done by X date, because that's something to rebel against. Whereas if you set the goal, which people have done, of this quarter, I'm going to notice everything that's working well in my business. So when I make sales, I'm going to notice where those sales came from. When I Periscope, I'm going to notice what gets the most shares or gets the most viewers or gets the most signups. When I Instagram, I'm going to see what kind of post gets the most reaction or gets the most sales. And then that gives you all of this knowledge for knowing what you're going to do next time. So that really helps you figure out, oh, so if all I'm doing is noticing what works on Instagram, then I feel like Instagramming all the time, right? So sometimes just acknowledging, just letting your goal be, I'm going to be noticing instead of I'm going to be definitely getting something done, lets you be open, like it inspires you to do more of the thing you want to do. Because you're just going to notice what works, and so suddenly you want to do the stuff to see what works. In other words, it's like being flexible and being, what's the word I was looking for? Just being excited about it, and being an experimenter, and being excited to experiment. Now, there have been lots of questions in Periscope that I can't both follow and finish a sentence at the same time. So I'm going to open it up for questions in just a second. There are a couple questions about like being multiple types. We will talk about all that, but I want to let you know I put together 7 resources for if you're an obliger, a questioner, or a rebel. I've given you resources for all of those. You can find it at tarasweiger.com/resource. But as you're watching, I want you to think, which one makes sense for me? Do I have an easier time with internal or external expectations, or does any expectation makes me break out in hives? That's what a rebel is. Now, if you guys would like to ask me questions, you can absolutely post your questions. You did a minute ago, and I'm sorry I missed them. One of the things that somebody said is, can you be both? Is it possible to be both? So this is just a framework, a way of thinking about it. I think it's up to you if you want to be both, or the real key here, the real key is not what label you put on it, but what helps you get stuff done. What structure can you put into place that's going to end up with you getting stuff done? That's it. So if you find that the structure of accountability works for you, then do more of that. If you find that the structure of, as a questioner, I need to research something and then I need to apply it to my own business and see how it's going to work for me and how it makes sense for me, and then I'll do it. So I just need to put forth the structure of actually investigating things. Now, if you are somebody, I think, said they're like a obliger and a rebel. What I found is actually a lot of people who think they're rebels because they've really spent a lot of years just saying no to everything and being really angry about people asking them to do things. They actually found that there were obligers that had been obliging for a long time and felt really bitter about it. And so then they got to the point where they're like, screw everything, I'm not doing anything that anybody asks of me because I'm just done. Okay, so that is, in my experience, an obliger that just got sick of it. So if you're an obliger that got sick of it, then getting more accountability and more people checking in on you might just make you angry. So you might have turned into a rebel over the years. I'm gonna plug in my phone real quick because it was dying. Ooh, somebody says that resonates. So I'm glad to hear that. So are there questions? Obliger burnout? Yes, definitely. Now, before I wrap up this video, are there questions that you guys would like me to answer? If you're watching the recording, you can absolutely leave your questions in the comments on YouTube, or you can tweet me or ask on Instagram. I'm at tarasweiger in all of the places, and use the hashtag SweigerLive to meet up with other people. We mentioned that the Starship provides accountability and support and accountability partner program, and the classes, you've got access to all the classes, which are written to help answer all of your questions so that you can turn it into an internal expectation. The Starship is now open. You can find out about it at tarasweiger.com/starshipbiz. So if you need an accountability partner, if you're looking for a community and a program and a community of people who are going to hold you to the standard of being the kind of person that works in your business, check it out, tarasweiger.com/starshipbiz. And for the resource guide that has 7 resources for obligers, questioners, and rebels, go to tarasweiger.com/resource, and you can put in your email address and we'll email it right to you. Okay, thank you so much and have a fabulous getting things done kind of day.